Hello and welcome to another episode of the Eunice Ajim show. I am your host, Eunice Ajim, and we have some questions. So the question is, what do I look for when I am making an investment decision? And also, if you're an investor, what are some of the things that maybe you should be paying attention when making an investment decision into a tech startup, especially on the continent? I think there are definitely different factors that we look as founders. I would say the first thing first is like the founders, the team. Like the team is the best. Like you might have an amazing idea, but if you have a really bad team, the chances of that company failing is very high. And what I mean by that, typically, like for me personally, I like to see that maybe you're a repeat founder, right? Like maybe you have failed. Like I started 2 tech companies. The first one I just struggled with. And I failed, and I admit it very openly. But in the second one, I used a lot of the mistakes that I made into the first company and make sure that I didn't do the same thing in the second company. And that one definitely skyrocketed. So I always like to understand, like, have you built something before and what happened to it? Even if it was like a failure, like why did it fail? You know, like what did you learn from those failures and all of the likes? The next thing that I like to look at if you don't have prior founder experience is, do you have experience in the field that you're solving? For example, when we invested in which company? Readiness. Readiness was a software engineer at Andela. And we all know what Andela is doing. They were all software. It's like pretty much a platform to make it easy for you to hire software engineers to be able to work abroad. And when they were working at Readiness, one of the things that they found out was that it was very difficult for employers to pay their employees. I had the same issue in my last tech company when I decided that I wanted to hire my employees in Nigeria. I thought that was very interesting that he had already had some sort of experience in the field. And that was amazing, right? Like he has some experience, he knows what he's building. He has interviewed as many HR people as possible. I know that he'll go the extra mile to make sure that the product is a reflection of the experience that he has. I angel invested in another company called Meko Auto. They've done so much more, but at the time when I was investing, one of the founders was someone that had experience with like garage, right? Like he knew that like when you wanted to fix your car, like finding the right part was always an issue. And then the other co-founder was a technical founder, so he understood technology. And I felt like the two of them together was just like the perfect match made in heaven for what they were building, and like that got me excited. Another company, this is the last one I'll take, is Ibanco. The founder of Ibanco, Charles, is a previous unicorn founder. He was the founder of InduSwitch. They did really well. I was so impressed with like the founder of Ibanco. You could tell that the guy had experience. I invested in that company because of the founder. Like his data room, the amount of information he was providing as to investors, his quarterly updates, everything was on point. So you know he has experience. And even if the company struggles tomorrow, you know he'll figure out a way to make the company work. And that's one thing that I'm always like, I'll always prioritize the founder over everything. But then when you're past the founder, I think the next thing that I like to look at, even though I am a pre-seed investor, I don't believe in investing in companies that don't have traction. I'm sorry, but like if you haven't done the basic work of going out there and looking for your customers, then what's the point of me coming and giving you my money? Right? So I always think that looking at how much traction a founder has is like the best thing possible to be able to like make a decision. So for us at Ajim Capital, I have signed this off to the roof, and I will keep singing it. I will not invest until you're doing at least 5,000 a month in recurring revenue. I know it's a big number. You could be the co-founder of Mark Zuckerberg, and I will not invest in your company until you show some traction. Again, there's some investors out there that would definitely do that. I think one of my portfolio companies made a very funny comment earlier last week, and he was just like, "Hey, Eunice, you are definitely like a patient investor." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You're very patient in your decision making." And it's because I take my time, I observe, right? Like there's just so much risk. If you've listened to any of my other videos, like 90% of companies fail, right? So like I want to make sure that as I'm making that initial investment, I'm already like removing at least a percentage, right, of you failing. And if you can, as a founder, even show that you're capable of going out there convincing people. I'm not even asking for like a full-blown product. You see a problem out there, you think this is a solution, but maybe you're not a customer, right? Go find a customer and even offer it to them and say, hey, I know you are the right customer for my product. Is this even a problem to you? Is this a pain or is this a want? If it's a want, the chances of them paying for it are very low. If it's a painkiller, you know when you have a headache or like your stomach is aching and you're like, I gotta go buy this paracetamol or like this Advil or something to like kill this headache. If it's not a pain, will you pay for it? But if it's a want where you're like, oh, I want ice cream, it's a feel good, but you probably still pay for it, but it's not like it's a painkiller right now. So yeah, I definitely think I love to seek traction. I think I'll probably always be this kind of investors. There are a lot of investors out there that will invest with almost no traction. But there's a but. I think founders tend to get this wrong, especially when we see in the news the $2 million, the $3 million fundraise with just a product, and you're like, dang, like, what am I doing wrong? What you tend to forget is that person is either a repeat founder, right? Like you mentioned, they have built something in the past that maybe made investor money, and then they go out there and then they want to build something again, and those investors give them money. Or they're privileged. They come from a wealthy family. Maybe they went to an Ivy League school, right? They have rich friends. They can easily call the dad and say, Dad, I have this amazing idea. Will you write a $1 million check size? And the dad will probably write it. Or the dad will say, I'll give you $250,000, and then you have to go to your uncle and your auntie and your friends to get the remaining money. Or they've worked at a really big successful tech company and they've been saving for a while and they're capable of like putting the initial capital and rallying their friends around it. If you don't have that, go find custom. That's just the reality. When I'm past the traction, I like to look at your product. Are customers actually interacting on the product, or was it something that got done on WhatsApp messages? Or is it your dad's real estate business that he just gave it to you because, you know what I mean? Like, I actually had a founder speak to me yesterday and they were like, yeah, like, you know, we launched earlier this year and we have 8 properties under the belt. And I'm like, okay, where did this transaction happen? What was the sales cycle? And he said, well, we closed 2 landlords, but then 6 properties is my co-founder's dad's friend that gave us the deal. And I said, well, I don't think you figured out product market fit yet, or not even product market fit. I don't think you really went out there and like searched for your clients. I think you just had an opportunity where like your parents were capable of helping you. And that still doesn't make it like my dad would do anything to help me at the end of the day, right? Like, but somebody that does not know me and like actually have that problem would not do it to please me. When I'm past the product, oh, let me even stick on the product a little bit. So like, what have you built? And it doesn't have to be, I mean, you're a product engineer. It doesn't have to be like a full-fledged product company, right? It could be like a very minimal, viable product. I use an application. I've been using an application since I've been in Nigeria called AutoGirl to be able to book drivers as I've been going around. The UI and UX horrible. The website is just purely bad. I love her. She pitched at my event last week, but it's a painkiller. She fixed my problem, and I looked past what the website looked like, and I booked so many times, right, a driver on her website because it was fixing my problem. If you actually have a tribe and you know that you have, you know, like you have a thing that people want, they will not be too worried about the UI and like what your product like. And I feel like sometimes I even saw some amazing products yesterday and that I know were in private beta, and I'm like, launch, this looks good enough. Launch it, put it out there, give it to your customers, ask them questions. Do you like it? Is this fixing your problem? Is this pain? Are there too many features? And especially when we're software engineers and we're technical people, we just add things that we think the customer might like, when initially I just want you to get me I want to go on your app, I want to find a car that I like, I want to put in my credit card, and I want the driver to show up at my house. Get me to the thing without worrying about all the things that we think customers care about. Because I think at the end of the day, they understand that you are fixing a problem that they have, and they know that you improve over time. When I get past the product, I like to look at the market. Yeah, so when I look at the market, I'll say before I even look at how big the market is, in the African context, I think I watched a video from Vusi Yelp. Thank you for saying his name right. I love you, Vusi. It's a learning process about the last name. I watched his video I think a few days ago, and he said that we are seeing today, because of the flock of technology and the fact that so many founders are seeing the big race and the luxury. Man, I've been in Nigeria for a week now. I'm like, tech bros are happy people. They are living the life. They are living the life in Lagos. Let's just admit that, right? And nothing wrong with that. I'm nobody to judge. But they're doing pretty well for themselves because they've been able to raise good amounts of money. They've been able to grow companies enough that, they can pay themselves hefty salaries. And anybody looking from the outside will say, I want to get there, right? So Vusi was saying how today we are seeing an inbound of just African youth, right? Building dating apps when they're driving on potholes, right? We are in an age where, we're building things that we see from the West when we have actual problems that are need right now that get overlooked because we're all trying to get to that next tech fundraise. So one of the biggest things that I look when I'm looking at the market, before I even look how big it is, is the African market ready for this? Are you just building this because you saw that it was popular in the US and you just want rally a bunch of investors invest in you because it's a new sexy thing? Or is the market actually ready to purchase your product for it? It's a painkiller, right? It's a need right now, or it's a want. If I get past that, okay, this is a need, right? Now I start thinking how big is this market? If I was just to put the African market without thinking globally, of course, I'm big on starting for Africa and then going globally. But if it was just Africa, how big would those customers? And I think I love when people say, oh, Africa has 1.3 billion people. If I could only take 10% of that market, and you know what I mean? And that pay me $10 a month. This is how much money. That's not how it works. Your customer has to be very defined. For example, Otogirl, she said, this is the amount of people that travel from the African diaspora, right? That comes to the African market every year. On average, this is how much they spend. She said $120 per trip. And I said, no, I've been here for 3 days. I spent more than $400, right? Per trip. Or drivers, you want a good car, you want to be comfortable, you want good AC, you will probably spend more for your comfort. Here's on average how much they will spend. And if I could target, and she had an exact number, if I could target just so she narrowed it down first to her exact customer description. And then she said, within that customer description, not everybody wants to use Otogirl. Some people might want to use Uber or Bolt or other awesome driver platforms out there, but a very segment of maybe female founders that want to be safe, or just not female founders, just like women that want to make sure that like the driver that is picking them up is safe, respect them, and all of these different things. Here's why they'll pick Autogirl, right? And if those people only spend $120 a year, here's how much money I can get. And typically as an investor, I want to see how do you get to 100 million in annual revenue, because the money that you're taking is US money, right? If you're taking money from a VC, we expect billion-dollar valuations. We want to see a lot of interaction. So that is that's it. I think I'm gonna cut it off right there. Like, those are the things that we look when we are making an investment decision. I hope you found this content useful, and until next time, I hope that you are living the best version of your African dream. Have a blessed day.